Hi, I'm Paul, the Happy Gilder. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be making a retro style 80s gaming mirror. Now, at the point of start, I'll have already kind of etched the mirror and it'll be prepped ready for painting. So if you haven't seen that video before, I'll put a link up here of how to prep the panel so that you can get started at the same point. But before we crack on, if you're into Victorian techniques, reverse painting, gold leaf, glass art, any of those and more, then you're in the right place, because that's all this channel's about, and I usually release a video every week. So if that's your thing, please subscribe to the channel and click the little thumbs up icon. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, I've set up a Patreon. There's a link for that in the description, where I'll reward my patrons with a different design every month. There's also a link to a Facebook group, my Instagram and my Etsy shop. But with that out of the way, let's crack on with the vid. Okay, I've prepared a panel, or a mirror more than a panel. And the design I've gone with is a kind of retro 80s design, because I've kind of based it around the fact that I found this cool thing in a charity shop and just want to kind of incorporate it into a mirror. And that cool thing is this, which, let's find the switch. It's called a lightning plate, or that's what it said on the box. But I thought something like this could just look so smart with the right design. But what I'm going to do in this tutorial is cover a painting technique, because for the checkerboard on this design, I want it to go from a white through to a pink and then to a kind of duck egg blue. And because it's in checkers, we're not going to have to do that in the style of a gradient like I have in the past with like brush blending. I can do this individually by just mixing the paint and gradually kind of getting to the point where I want. So I'm going to do that first, paint the rest of it, and then leave this centre part where I'm going to mount the lightning plate behind it. But then what I'll do, I'll carry on and I'm going to make a box to sort of encase it. So I'm not going to make it so something that goes on a wall, more something that sort of sits on a surface. So I'll go through kind of the tools required to make the box, and then I might sort of do a bit of laser etching on the box just to get some cool sort of retro 80s designs on there. So anyway, just going to change the camera angle and then get started with the painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the colour that I want to start with, which is white, into my palette. And the way I do this is with these kind of pipettes. It's just easier than pouring it, because once you pour paint, it goes into this bit and then it's just a pain. You know, the lid doesn't shut properly and you waste a load of paint as well. So at least with this, you kind of take a tiny bit, and we only need a tiny bit. So I'm just going to put that in there. That's all good. And I'm not going to need white again, so I'll put the lid back on that. So firstly, all I'm going to do is run white along this top line here. Which, nice and easy, don't even need my mild stick. Well, I say that, you watch. This could quite easily go wrong. But. And one thing, like, I'm not too fussed about it now, but what I want to bear in mind is I'm going to be having a light source behind this mirror. So this paint job is probably going to have to be doubled up. Not doubled up in the way that it's going on, like I'm not going to have to repeat all of the kind of mixing and gradients and stuff like that, but I'll certainly have to, you know, do another coat, because the light will show through and then that'll look rubbish. So now that's done, just going to start adding pink into the white and mix it so that, you know, adding a bit of pink for this line, then a bit more, so on, until I get to a point where I can just do this straight out the tin. Then I'll start mixing that with the blue. And then gradually coming down, and hopefully by this last square, I'll be able to just use the blue out of the tin as well. So what I'll do, I'll do the next bit in the time lapse, because you don't have to watch me shaking around and hear me moaning about how bad my hands are. So I'll crack on with that now. Right, so that's how that came out, and I think that looks really nice. Could have probably done with blending the white down a little bit more with the pink, but I don't mind that sort of white horizon line. I think it looks okay. Now what I'm going to do to finish the rest of the painting on the mirror, I'll do as a time lapse, because the techniques I'll be using I've covered in previous videos, but what I will do is put a link in the top right of the screen, and then I'll put a link in the description as well. So if there's anything what I'm doing that you haven't seen in a previous video, at least then you can jump back to that video and kind of see the process of how that's being done. Then once that's done, we'll move on to making the wooden case. Right, so I'm going to leave that to dry overnight, but while there's still some daylight, I'm just going to make a start on the box that it's going to be encased in. So I've got a bit of scrap wood here, and it's always good to kind of keep this sort of thing. If you ever see wood lying about, don't throw it away and don't burn it. Nowadays, you know, solid wood, even if it's pine, which this is still expensive. And it's just so much nicer if you can make something out of solid wood rather than kind of MDF or anything like that. So I'm going to do this as a time lapse, and that's mainly because I'm not really an expert in power tools, so although I'll be using them, if you were going to make something similar, you'd be better off kind of looking at different kind of YouTube channels of how to use power tools properly, I suppose. But anyway, let's get on with it. Right, so I've prepped the wood that's going to be used for the frame, and now what I'm going to do is introduce a bit of kit that I haven't used in any of my videos so far, and that is a 100-watt laser. I'd always hoped that when I used the laser in my first video it would be on glass, but I don't know, I just want to kind of do a nice design on the wooden frame that I've made, and I think that looked really nice when it's laser etched into the wood. So I'm not going to do this as a tutorial about how to use the laser, but I will kind of go through a few introductory points. Firstly, don't be scared about this being a kind of real technical piece of equipment. It's so easy to use, and I really think if you know how to use a printer, you could use a laser. You know, it is just that simple. Obviously there's things like file prep, and you're going to have to do trial and error on the materials that you use, but for now I'm just going to do a quick demo, show you the settings I use for pine and the kind of setup, and then kind of etch it and then build the frame. Okay, so let's get started. So I've got my bit of wood in here, and this is set up so the piece I'm going to be doing is the exact same size as this. So if I just go over to the screen, this is what I'm going to be doing on the top of it. And before I set the cut depth and stuff like that, what I'm just going to do is check that what I've got set up is the right size. So if I click frame and then move over here, and that looks about right. So now what I've got here, this software by the way is called Lightburn. You have to pay for this, but it's a one-off cost, but you can get a free version of something similar called RDWorks, and that's really good for just running the laser as well. So what I've got down here is the options of presets, and if I just kind of click through them, you'll be able to see at the top here that they're set for different types of wood that I've used. So this is my setting for oak, and I'm pretty sure this is the one I've got set for pine. Yeah, when you double click within these, yeah, this is it really. The speed is 300 millisecond, maximum power 25 and 300 dpi. So what I'm going to do is I should close this, but just so that you can see it work, what I'll do is I'll take the little safety switch down and then I'll run the cut while it's and that's how this has come out. So really sharp, and I mean pine's not the best wood for this sort of thing. I know it's called a softwood, but really, you know, it's only in between the grain. The actual grain of pine is really hard, so you know you'll get bits like this, like on old Donkey Kong there, where it's got the sort of ridges, but I still think they look quite nice. But really, you know, if you want to get a really kind of uniform etch, something like kind of teak, boxwood, even oak, you know, is really nice for it. But for now, I'm happy with that. All I need to do is wait for this kind of tacky sort of, I don't know, it's this sort of moisture out the wood that whether it's sap or whatever, I don't know, but that's sort of sticky and you can see that it's staining it. So what I need to do is wait for that to cool down and then just sand it. That'll take that sort of tea stained effect away from that. So I'm just going to move on, do the other side panels and then start putting it together. And here's the finished piece. So I know I say it all the time, but I'm particularly happy with this one. I just think all of the elements combined really kind of make it what it is. Also really happy to kind of get started with the laser engraver. I'm going to be doing a lot more on that, mainly with glass I think, but you know, some wooden projects as well. So hopefully that's something you guys are into. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to the channel and click the little thumbs up icon. And please share it with anyone else who you think might enjoy it. So till next time, cheers.